Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. We've been having some discussions with some of the co-hosts about this mysterious substance called Vegemite. Vegemite is a favorite amongst all Australians. We're raised on it, brought up on it, and many around the world are quite curious about what this stuff is and what it means to eat it as a breakfast spread. Those in the UK world understand that there is a sort of semi-equivalent called Marmite, but those of us in Australia think that Marmite is a poor substitute for a Vegemite. But that's an opinion thing. So what we thought we'd do is do a bit of a segment on Vegemite and just talk about what is the appropriate way to eat Vegemite. So to start that off, first of all, I'm going to show you a 220-gram jar of Vegemite. It's made by Kraft Foods. It is produced around the world. It's a little bit hard to come by in the United States nowadays, but I managed to order some off of Amazon. In fact, I ordered a dozen jars for myself.
Nice.
Now, many Australians living in the States, they love to actually have their Vegemite because they were raised on it, and it's hard to get away from it.
And may have actually been popularized somewhere in the U.S. Based on the Men at Work song.
Indeed, right.
Yep.
That's a very good reference, Larry. Vegemite, I come from the land down under, has a line in it.
She gave me a Vegemite sandwich.
That's right. I met a man from Brussels. He was 6 foot tall and full of muscles. I said, "Can you give me I forgot the exact line, something," and he just said, "I'll give you a Vegemite sandwich." So it was very similar. But a Vegemite sandwich is not the way we typically eat Vegemite in Australia.
Right. The one from Brussels. Would you do that?
That was the man from Brussels. That's right. I have Exhibit A here, which is my toaster from the kitchen that my wife begrudgingly provided for the segment. And so I have a piece of toast here, which is actually pre-toasted, and I'm going to warm it up just a little bit. And what we do when we eat Vegemite, the most effective way and the most tasty way to eat Vegemite is to spread it very, very thinly on a piece of toast. The mistake that most Americans make, because they're used to the habit of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, is to over-apply the Vegemite. Now, what you must understand is that Vegemite is a yeast extract that is very full of vitamin B, and it's also extremely salty. So if you over-apply Vegemite as if it were peanut butter, you will fail miserably, and you will not like the taste of it. If you lightly apply Vegemite with the appropriate amount of butter on a piece of toast, you will almost certainly like it, or maybe not. It's a matter of opinion, but it's definitely a case of being able to do it the right way.
Yes.
So here we go. I'm gonna pop my piece of toast out of the toaster here. I feel like a complete shill advertising Vegemite, but
yeah,
it's fun.
and Joff, to for the record, while you're popping your toast there, the verse is buying bread from a man in Brussels. He was 6'4" and full of muscles. I said, "Do you speak in my language?" He just smiled and gave me a Vegemite sandwich.
Vegemite sandwich. So I'm going to apply a fairly liberal amount of butter. Now the butter I'm applying here is more of a olive oil based butter. It's a little bit healthier than your average butter. But the important part is when I apply my Vegemite here, I'm going to put it on the stool that's next to me. I'm going pretty thin. And you notice here I've just got a little bit on the top of the bread. I'll put a little bit more on there.
That is minute amounts of Vegemite.
It is. And this is the important thing to understand because it's strong stuff. You don't want to go too far. So what I tend to do when I apply this is just to get about that much, just a little bit on top of the toast. And when you get it to that point, that's a gracious plenty. You don't want to go any further than that.
And Joff, how you described it earlier, I would may consider that more than I expected.
Well, perhaps. This depends on the individual, but
Right.
I wouldn't go much further than just a little bit. You want to be able to see your bread through it, have your butter mixed up in it, and it makes it very tasty. And then you can take your taste of it. Very good. Yeah,
So, Joff,
nice and salty.
For an American, and you've lived in the States, I don't know how long, what would you say is the taste equivalent? Is there an equivalent in
so
the
it's very
States?
savory. This is not a sugary substance at all. It's a yeast extract. It's kind of a salty, tangy taste. It mixes well with the butter normally. So I don't know that there is much of equivalent. If you're used to sugary spreads, this is absolutely not that.
Definitely not.
I
have in fact both eaten Marmite and Vegemite, and I agree that Vegemite Marmite is not a substitute for Vegemite, and I actually brought some small packets home back for the family. My wife enjoyed it. The kids thought it was fucking nasty. Pardon my French.
Yep.
But the big thing that I think would maybe make it even more appealing is, in fact, the butter.
Yep, that's absolutely right. That's a very good point, Larry. You've got to get some butter on there because mixing the two up together is what really gives you the good flavor. And yeah, and it's just not sugary. And the other thing I would add to that comment is, if you are hungover in the morning, which some of us in the information security community sometimes get into that state, I'm not quite sure why. Vegemite is one of the most excellent hangover cures you can possibly find because it happens to be very rich in vitamin B, niacin, and let's see, I'm struggling with the glasses here. Thiamine,
niacin,
which is your B1. So it's really one of the truly miracle hangover cures, actually. So for those in the infosec industry,
no wonder why Australians
recommend.
love it so much, given the stereotype.
Yeah. So that's my Vegemite segment. I hope the Australian listeners that are fans truly appreciate that, and maybe we'll get this published somewhere.
Well, and for context, I was at a conference a couple weeks ago called Insecurity Conference in Maryland, and I met a couple Australians. They are with a company called FunCaptcha, FUNCAPTCHA. And they were giving out Australian delicacies as samples at their booth. And I saw the Vegemite, and I'm like, Vegemite, I've always wanted to try it. But I didn't want to try it without knowing how to do it the right way. So I have several packs. They have like little sample packs. It's almost like a little butter pack.
Yeah. And that's about enough for a slice of toast.
And that should be like one serving. It's probably maybe a teaspoon. So now I know I can go home and put that on my. Do you ever do anything other than bread? Can you put it on an English muffin, or is that faux pas?
Oh, you certainly can. I would highly recommend, toasting a muffin, but at the same time, mixing the butter with it as well, because I think that combination of the butter and the Vegemite is really the right mix. It makes it taste really good, and it gives you the right result, and it's what most of us grew up on. Like I said, but the biggest mistake for a lot of people is they over apply it. They're like, oh goodness, I need to put a whole inch of spread on this thing, and it's not peanut butter.
Right.
You don't need to do that. A little bit goes a long way.
It's not peanut butter. It's not apple butter. It's not marmalade or jelly. It's just a very thin coating. The FunCaptcha guys, they posted. I don't know if you've ever had them or heard of them, Joff, but apparently there's something called a Vegemite ice pop.
Oh, I have not heard of that or them, actually, but that's interesting.
Apparently they're a thing, and they're willing to send some to us.
Well, that would be quite interesting. Even I might not like that, but I will admit, and Jeff, I'm willing to send you a jar. If you want a 220-gram jar, I just got my dozen ordered, and I don't think I'm going to be able to eat a dozen in a year. But I can send you a big jar if you're interested once you put it on your toast and get to enjoy it the right way.
Joff, if that offer stands, I'd love a jar.
Oh, absolutely, Larry. I'll send you one.
Beautiful.
Cool. All right. For all the Australians out there, Vegemite. Thank you.
Vegemite. That's a wrap.